What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of The Captain's Run, and we have an absolutely huge show planned for you today. Dom Young being told that he can resign with someone else, not even really look elsewhere, essentially being told, mate, it's time, your time is up. I know they phrase it in the whole, you got permission to speak to other clubs. But in reality, it's, it's looking like your days here are numbered. So that's huge news. Brandon Smith, just before the show went live, Brandon Smith is on the verge of getting an early release from the Roosters and potentially joining the Rabbitohs. Now, on my podcast on Monday, we talked about the fact that the Rabbitohs didn't seem to have many nines in their squad, and we kind of debated, did the Rabbitohs see Humphries as a 9 or did they see him more of a 7? And I think this answers your question as to where they see Humphries, and we'll get into that later on the show. We've got Preston's trip to the judiciary last night. Big out for the Doggies and potentially the Blues. Some mad moments from Magic Round, Sewer's bomb try and the Raiders' golden point win over the Storm. Broncos resist the temptation to bring Ezra Mam straight back into their side. Can they beat the Bunnies this Friday night? Origin sides coming further into focus. Who will be the New South Wales fullback? Queensland compete with the Blues' outstanding pack. Our preview of round 10. And the big fella, one of the most beloved Belmore big dogs. Kiraz will join us later, and also Sir Skipper Scope will join us for an hour as well. As I said, we've got a huge show planned. The initial segment is going to be about Dom Young and where he'll land, but then we're going to talk Origin Smokies, babies. You know I love that. You know I love a bit of Origin Smoky chat. SEN 1170 in Sydney, SENQ 693 Brisbane, SEN 620 on the Gold Coast. Listen live on the SEN app. Download the SEN app at the App Store or the Google Play Store, or you can listen anytime. Go to Apple, Spotify, and give The Captain's Run a follow. And also, don't forget, brought to you by the Bloke Club. You can join at www.bloke.club. You automatically go in the draw to win a Mazda BT50. It's totally free to join, no strings attached. And it's basically all thanks to Luke Camilleri from Aspley Mazda. Give him a follow on Instagram, LDC_01. And he does prizes all the time, guys. He does prizes all the time. The Maestro, how you going, brother?
Very, very well, Kempy. And I tell you what, on this Dom Young story, I was just poking around social media during the week, and something came up. It was an old grab from the Bloke in a Bar podcast, but then it has come into firmer focus this morning. Can I play a little bit of audio for yourself and the listeners?
What have you got here?
I think that Dom Young watched this space. I'm getting the feeling he doesn't look comfortable there. It just seems off. And again, if someone does come in with a big offer for Dom Young, would he consider it? I don't know.
Wow.
Round 4, Kempy.
Round 4. Oh, man, you're making me blush.
What else have you got in your crystal ball today, buddy?
Holy. That's it. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Maestro. You're making me look much smarter than I am. So sometimes when you say 1,000 wrong things, you get one right. So, but no one remembers the wrong things. That's the good thing about it. There's some analysts out there that'll say these like a bunch of outlandish things, and they never bring up all the ones they got wrong. But as soon as they land on one they get right, they're like, "Oh, mate, I told you. I bloody told you, mate. Bloody told you." So I'm going to do that right now. I bloody told you about Dom Young. Mate, if I'm being honest, so that was round 4. That was round 4. If I'm being honest, it was just a feeling. It was just intuition, watching him play, mainly because, the way I see this, if you go to the Roosters and you're on a big wicket, you're a big marquee signing, you essentially have to go to another level. And so look at Brandon Smith. Anyone that's being fair dinkum, like Brandon Smith didn't really play bad at the Roosters. He just didn't go to another level. And Dom Young, I just watching him play, like he had moments and periods throughout the season that was really good, but he just never got that consistency. And I don't think he ever hit the heights that he hit at the Knights. And I actually, if I'm being honest, I think this is a really sounds silly of saying this, but a really clear example of maybe it was both parties that didn't work. I think a lot of the time you can go, okay, yep, the player, his form's off, he wasn't committed and all that. Whereas I feel like whenever you watch Dom Young, I don't think effort was ever an issue. I don't think his physical shape was ever an issue, his fitness. his power, his speed, his footwork. I just think that the Roosters as a whole, this recruitment round, it's been really poor. It's been really poor. And I think that, even internally, the Roosters, and I'm probably not saying anything they don't know or internally, you have to remember, if you're a club like the Roosters, these guys are harder on themselves than any, person in the media could ever be. But I reckon even internally, they've looked at that last round of recruits and said, you know what, we might have got one or two right, but we probably got this round wrong. And that's comparing to one of the probably the greatest recruiting team in the competition over the past 20 years. You go back to 13, a round of recruits, won them a premiership. You go back to 17 into 18, round of recruits, won them into premiership. Now, I will say, and this is getting really in the weeds in regards to style of recruitments and everything like that, I think that you have to remember, when Brandon Smith was recruited, it was in 2021. And a lot of people forget, this is when the 6 again was insane. Basically, the game was so quick. I think the Storm broke the record for the amount of points scored in a season. Tom Trbojevic had his year where both wingers scored 22 tries. He had a bunch of tries. He had 30 try assists. The points they're getting scored. So the speed of the game was just through the roof. And so you can understand why Robbo was looking at that and going, okay, look at the direction of the game. It's all about speed of ruck, speed of ruck, speed of ruck. And so you go out, and instead of getting a guy like Verrills, who they currently had and had actually scored a try in a grand final for them and all that good stuff, he's almost the opposite of that. He's just, get the ball off the deck to his players, Whereas Brandon Smith, what is he? Speed through the ruck, speed through the ruck. And so, although, yes, of course, Roosters will probably look internally and take accountability of this round of recruitment and say, you know what, didn't go well this time. I do think that you've got to put it in the context of what they were doing and what the game was. Because what happened the next year? We pulled the game, I think it was the next year or the year after, we pulled the game right back and we started giving penalties for 6 against coming out of your own end, and you could actually kick the ball out inside your own 40. Because the game is nowhere near as fast today as it was in 2021. And so I think that threw a few clubs off recruitment-wise, because you're recruiting a totally different team with the 2021 style of rugby league to what you're recruiting at the moment. It's somewhere in the middle at the moment. So I just wanted to lay that on the table. I reckon internally they've had a big review and said, you know what, this round, with the fact that we've had to move on Cheese, the fact that we're moving on Young, would suggest that we probably got this round of recruitment. I mean, they also were about to get Fifita.
Yeah. Haven't they dodged a bullet there?
Well, exactly. But they wanted him. It was him that backflipped. So that's how much this round didn't go as planned for the Roosters. Now, granted, they've done so well to it didn't go well, but they've righted the ship relatively quickly, and they're almost basically back in box seat to be a premiership threat next year if DCE does come to the side next year. Because some of these young fellas coming through, I've just been critical of their recruitment, but gee, some of these young fellas coming through at the moment, like Toya, Fiketti, the young fella that just signed, he's a concreter, and whilst their recruitment hasn't been great, ironically, their development has been outstanding over the last 5 years, because this young forward pack, Spencer Leniu's been pretty good. I've got to give them raps where they did it right. The fact that they were able to keep Angus Crichton, that's also been good. Sammy Walker hit his strap. So I'm not saying it was all bad, but just compared to the past Roosters recruitment. And so they've managed to right the ship in this year, and I think you're starting to see the puzzle all come together. There was a big silence for about 12 months at the Roosters, and then they signed Reece Robson, and then obviously DCE. I don't know whether they knew already. I mean, they would have known a little bit already, because he did say last year he went to certain clubs and said he was willing to talk. And I think we're kind of beginning to see, okay, the puzzle's coming together. So what are your thoughts about the Dom Young situation?
I'm really interested in how quickly this has developed for the Roosters. I mean, I know their outside backs their stocks have improved from when they signed Dom Young, right? It seemed like a signing, not out of desperation, but certainly that they needed somebody to come in. They didn't know the form that Mark Nawaqanitawase would come into, to the point where he's now being talked about as someone who could be a smoky for Origin. And I think Billy Smith's return has affected that as well.
You know who's mostly affected it, though?
Yeah.
And I'm just about to go on a rant. The GOAT, Daniel Tupou.
What a renaissance.
No, not even a renaissance.
Just a continuation.
This is what I'm talking about,
you think it's
Maestro.
A myth that he was falling off.
Absolutely, it's a myth. This has been my. I know it's extreme. I know it's hyperbolic. Daniel Tupou is the most underrated winger of the last decade, and I'll stand on that till the day I die.
Speak to me, Kempy. What do we not see in Daniel Tupou?
You see it, but you don't recognise and appreciate it. You go back and you look at his stats. He is always one of the best players on the field.
Right.
He has been consistently good for 12 to 13 years. There's only one season where he hasn't scored double figures of tries. He's averaged, I think, in the last 5 to 6 years, more than 150 metres per game. Speak to Roosters fans and they'll tell you he is one of their best players. You could argue, we always talked about Brett Morris being the most consistent player, arguably ever, at least of the NRL ever, when it comes to outside backs. Man, I don't think Tupou's that far behind. I think he is such a good winger. He is so consistent. And I think that the fact that he's continued to be as good as he is also a reason why they've gone, we've got Dom Young on a big wicket. Tupou's probably on a little bit less. We probably thought Tupou was going to retire. I mean, it was only last year that there was talks that maybe he would retire or go to the Super League. Mate, he's still playing outstanding footy. He got 177 metres on the weekend. And I think that the Roosters have looked at it and gone, well, our favourite son, he's our first picked outside back, that's name's not Teddy. He's still going really well. We've got Dom Young on a big wicket. It hasn't actually, gone as well as we thought it would. And I think that has all played into part, as well as your point in regards to Nwangana Tuwase. He's come on leaps and bounds. Then you've got Toya. We'll talk about Smokies for Origin. We'll get around him a bit later. And so that's where I think the Roosters have looked at it and gone, okay, this is the direction we'll head at the moment.
Can I ask you about the implications? Is this a sign of them? Can you look into your crystal ball for us again? Is this them looking to clear cap space for somebody? There was a report that Buzz wrote about Brandon Smith moving on. He's got it on his sources that it's actually to upgrade some of the players that have started the season well. Think Nafahu White. Or do you think there's a big fish coming? Yeah.
No, I think it's both. I actually think it is to upgrade some of these really good, like White needs an upgrade.
See Wong.
Wong has been good. Fifita, all those boys are going to need a little bit of an upgrade, but I reckon they already had enough money to get a guy like DCE there. I'd be very surprised if DCE doesn't end up there now. It all looks like it's landing there. We've seen the reports, and there was some chat around him going back to Redcliffe. I really think it's between that and Redcliffe. I don't think, like the Bulldogs, they've got a plan set in place. Don't ruin that. And so I think he'll probably land at the Roosters. But I tell you what, there will be, because Cooper Cronk went there and won a premiership, the pressure on DCE to immediately get success. And I don't necessarily, like, there was some saying that basically if they don't win a premiership, it's a failure. I don't go that far. But I think that if they're not getting into prelim/grand finals, then it is probably a failure. And that's a lot of pressure on DCE's shoulder, because Cooper Cronk literally arrived, immediately went back-to-back. The funny thing with Cooper Cronk, he actually went back-to-back-to-back, which is just absolutely unbelievable. And so, I think that's kind of where we're landed. Now, quickly, before we head to a break, Dom Young, where do you think he'll land, Maestro?
I think it's the Knights. Matty Johns came out yesterday and said he'd be very, very happy for him to end up back there. I think the Knights are still interested in having him back, particularly on the fact that it'll be a cut price. The reporting is the Roosters happy to chip in $250K of the $450 contract. So it's $200,000 for one of the premier wingers in the competition when he went across to the Roosters.
Yeah.
I think they'd be very, very happy to have him back at that price.
Yeah. I know he's my boy. I keep talking about him, but it just shows you how good Tupou is.
Yeah.
We're talking about, tell me a club that not named the Penrith Panthers, that Dom Young, when he initially signed at the Roosters, wouldn't have walked into the starting side.
No, there wasn't. I don't think there wasn't one.
Yeah, there wasn't one. And he probably would have landed on the other wing to To'o, maybe. And so Tupou is such a gun. He was getting selected before him, and he's kept his spot. Like, Tupou, He's the GOAT, man. He's the GOAT. Not the GOAT, but you know what I'm saying. He's one of the most underrated, underappreciated wingers in the competition. I'll say that till the day I die. Dom Young, I agree with you, mate. I think he ends back up at Newcastle. Whenever you hear that noise all happening, it just seems like it will happen. But if they can get him for 400K, oh my God, you are laughing.
Go half that.
Well, so 200K.
200K, they'd be chipping in. Because
No, but they would have to pay him 400K, so he gets 600K though, wouldn't he?
We'll double check that, but
I don't think Dom Young would go for anything.
We'll correct those numbers, but yeah.
Well, no, because Dom Young went to the Roosters on about 600K.
No, you're right. I'm arguing you the wrong way. Don't worry. My mistake.
All good, mate. I've made about a bazillion of them, probably just in this little intro. So give us a text, guys. 0457 736 736. Where do you think Dom Young will end up? What do you think the Roosters' plan is? Does DC arrive? We've got Brandon Smith to talk about. Also, later in the show, we've got Origin Smokies. I cannot wait. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run and also Bloke jerseys. Bloke jerseys, they are available at bloke.shop. There's about 20% left. We ordered a lot this year, the most we've ever ordered. And so we've got 20% left. Make sure to get them. You would have seen them all over Magic Round. Head to www.bloke.shop. Once this design's gone, guys, we never, ever do the same design again. So make sure to get in. And also, we have a massive special with codesports.com.au/bloke. If you use the code MAGIC, claim your first month free. That's right, first month is free. And that offer ends on Thursday. So Code Sports is it is the best place to get sporting articles, really deep dives. If you listen to our podcast, we've got a great brand new segment by it. Go to www.codesports.com.au/bloke and then use code MAGIC and you get a first month free. You can cancel anytime. Trust me, you want to use it because this offer is gone on Thursday. Okay, let's talk about Brandon Smith. Now, I've spoken about it quite a bit. I think that Brandon Smith... yes, he didn't hit his heights, and yes, he was definitely getting better towards the end. However, it does seem like probably going to be better off just starting somewhere fresh, starting somewhere new. We spoke about it interestingly on my Monday podcast, and we kind of debated that, you know, the first grade squad at the Rabbitohs, very bizarre that they only essentially had one out-and-out 9, and we kind of debated. I thought the Rabbitohs saw Humphries as a 9. The Roo and the boys, they kind of felt, no, he was signed I thought Humphries was a 7, and the boys were saying, I reckon the Rabbitohs might have seen him as a 9 coming across because he played a lot of 9 and did really well in reserve grade. And I tend to agree with the boys in regards to he can be a bloody good 9. Like he'll almost play himself into a 9 jersey. I reckon if he does play there, that's how good he'll be. But I think that the fact that there seems to be as soon as Mamazelis gets injured, there's a strong push for Brandon Smith to leave early. It seems like the Rabbitohs are going, no, we see Humphries as a long-term 7. And in saying that, it could be, both things could be true. They could have initially thought Humphries was a 9 or 7 when he arrived, and then he just played so well at 7 that then they just said, no, you're a 7. But I think this confirms now that they see him long-term as a 7. Could be wrong, though. We'll see how they run out this weekend. In regards to Cheese to Rabbitohs, I actually think it is the perfect signing for the Rabbitohs in regards to his style of rugby league. Because you've got Mamazelis as the long-term 9, the crafty 9, can get it off the deck, really good service, all that stuff. But you play Cheese as a 13/9 or a front rower /9 when you need it. Mate, that side with his leg speed, with guys like, Gray coming off the back of him, with Campbell Graham, White and Cody Walker, Humphries, it is such a good signing. As long as he is concentrating, as long as he is not distracted for things off the field, and he is fully all in, and and I think he's getting to the age now where he needs to make that full-on decision of we love Cheese the Rogue, we really do, but sometimes you get to a certain age where you've just got to put the Rogue a little bit in the bag, at least whilst the season's on. And then you bring the Rogue back out maybe in the off-season. What do you reckon, Maestro?
I'm really interested in the personality aspect, as I always am. And Wayne's the king of sort of reigning in rogues, isn't he? So you've got that side of things as well. Apparently, Wayne's always been a fan of Brandon Smith. You remember he tried to get him up to Redcliffe.
I'm sure he was a fan when I'm sure he was a fan when he didn't say yes to him. When he did say yes to him.
But he's the great pragmatist. He'll be able to see past that. And, I think he goes into a squad where, I don't know, you know more about what's happening inside the changing room, but just from the outside looking in, he looks like he'd be a fit in that aspect of things as well. When you talk about guys like Cody, Latrell, even guys like Jai Arrow, the leaders around that dressing room, he seems like someone who'll be able to fit in better than he was able to at the Roosters.
I think the fun side of it, like you could look at those guys and they are a bit more looser and the Roosters, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the Roosters have fun, but they're very almost like Roman militant to a degree. Just with the way Robbo talks, almost like a philosopher at times. And that's not a knock on him. He's bloody smart, and I'm a nuffy that doesn't know what he's saying half the time. So it's not a knock on him. It's a knock on myself. But I do. It's actually quite admirable, Robbo's ability to think a bit deeper than just the simple stuff. Whereas I think when you go to the Rabbitohs with all the rogue and the joking and everything, he'll suit that side of things. I do think though, if Wayne Bennett wasn't the coach, I'd be a little bit concerned.
Yes.
I think Wayne Bennett is the key ingredient here that will make sure, the cheese is on track. So I really like the sign. What do you reckon? Yay or nay?
I'm interested about it happening mid-season because he signed the contract, obviously, and the Roosters want him off the books for their own reasons and whatever is happening there at the moment. But it depends how Souths go over the next couple of months. Can they get themselves into finals contention by the time he's back? How do you add him in if they are in a good little run of form? That'll be a tricky one for Wayne Bennett to figure out. But of all the headaches that he's got in terms of selection and injuries at the moment, I think having too many good players to fit into his side that runs out every Saturday is probably the preferable one to being a little bit short as they've been over the last month.
See, I don't think it'd be too many. I think he'd probably be either an impact player.
Yep.
And we have to remember, today, if you're on the bench, it doesn't mean you're not in the best 13.
Right.
Nowadays, it's literally the best 17. Back in the day, it used to be you had your best 13, and then if you weren't in that best 13, you were on the bench. Whereas I think that he will have a very specific role under Wayne of come on, at the 20-minute mark and just go absolutely hell for leather. Or he'll start him in the front row with Totola, most likely. And then potentially that would move Kepi off to the bench. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind him starting even. Because then, I mean, you can tweak it. You can obviously tweak it.
It's been interesting. They've used Mamazoulis mainly as an 80-minute hooker, but do you see him maybe be given a little bit of a breather every now and then?
Yeah, I think so. Every now and then, for sure. We spoke about this on Monday. I'm just not sure about the 80-minute hooker in today's game. Are you getting the best? Like, Brayley's a perfect example. Because he has to worry about gassing himself out, we don't see his running game as much. And I actually think that might be the key to the Sharks taking that next step, that next level. If you could give him a bit of a breather, and don't get me wrong, he does the 80 extremely well. Never misses a game. He's tackling, his technique is some of the best in the competition. But he's also got a bloody good running game. And I reckon because he's playing 80 every week, he can't really afford to be getting out all the time and taking, let's say 4 or 5 runs a half. And so, anyway, we'll get to that. That's a whole different discussion. But I love the signing for the Rabbitohs.
Agreed.
I think Wayne will be able to keep Brandon Smith on check. And I also think even from a perspective of the Cheese, I think he's also realised, okay, I had those few years at the Roosters. It didn't really work out. Maybe there were a year or two where I probably wasn't concentrating as much. Maybe there were years where I was. And I think that he's probably going to realise, mate, this is where I really need to take that next step and become a senior player eventually. Okay, we're going to head to a break. After the break, man, there is so much to talk about. We got the Preston 4 games. Now, it was 3. It got upgraded to 4 because he fought it. 4 games for that tackle. We will speak about that very soon. Do not touch the dial.
Don't touch that dial.
Don't touch the bloody dial, mate. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Give us a text 0457 736 736. What are your thoughts about Preston missing 4 weeks? Now, let's get the facts out there. So we know the facts, so we're not flying off the handle for no reason. Maestro, give the facts to the people.
So the secret sauce here that's been talked about a little bit on the station already this morning is the loading for crusher tackles. So what you've got is the first offence, $2,000 fine, $1,500 if you go the early guilty plea, which Preston did once. Second time, 2 matches or $3,000 fine if you take the early plea again. He's done that again. This time, you get the 3-match suspension. That's your early guilty plea. And having gone to the judiciary and lost, that's where the 4-match suspension comes in. So this has been something, rather than coming all at once,
it's obviously
has
built up.
up.
Now, if this was his first offence, let's say he didn't have those other offences, would have it just been a fine?
Yes, $2,000 at worst.
And do you know what he actually did in the other ones?
I don't, but having a third offence.
Maybe just a Google so that we can, because it's good to know what it actually was, if it's like, I don't know, something that's really innocuous. I have to be honest. Now, I've seen some people I absolutely love that I have to respectfully disagree with. I saw Jimmy Graham. He was quite against the penalty and even the sin bin in regards to the Preston tackle. I'm going to be honest, and I call it like I see it. I'm happy to be in the minority here. I actually did think it was 10 in the bin. I did think it was a penalty. Now, I wish it wasn't a suspension, and I think that, you can't just pretend like those other issues don't exist in regards to his loading. So, I really wish it wasn't 4 weeks. However, like when you've got the loading, now, could have it just been a 10 in the bin and that's the biggest punishment? I wish it was ended there. Like I wish it was. I don't want him to have 4 weeks. But when I was watching it, I actually did think that was really dangerous. Now I feel like the dangerous thing was that he lost his feet. He lost his feet, and I understand he was trying to pull him through. But I just think that when you lose your feet like that and land on the neck, it just is so dangerous. So I can actually understand where the ref was coming from. But I just, as I said, people are going to go, the suspension's a joke. It's 4 weeks. Like, for that, I do agree. Like, for that, it should have just been, to be honest, in a perfect world, a penalty. Like, if I'm reffing and we're in a perfect world and I'm reffing rugby league the way I would like to ref it, I would like to give it a penalty. In this current climate where we're, quite sensitive to the way tackles look and everything like that, I could understand the 10 in the bin. But I just wish that something like that couldn't get you 4 weeks. I could understand if it was, Suoli's flying out of the line in Origin and, he hits him in the head. Or I can understand it just, sometimes when you see stuff like that, you're like, does it pass the pub test of that's 4 weeks, something that, although he did lose his feet, he didn't intentionally lose his feet. He didn't intentionally, and I think that's where, at least from my perspective, I always look at and I know you could never know for sure what the intention is, but I always look for what is his body language, what is he trying to do here, and you can tell he is trying to bring his head through. He just loses his feet too early because he's fatigued. And so that's where I look at it and I go, I can understand where the NRL is coming from because it's loading. In the NRL, they've just got to put their hands up and say, guys, you've got the fine, you got the fine. What do you want us to do? Just change the rules because of this one situation? And that's where I understand the NRL's in our hearts, but I wish that wasn't the reason he missed 4 weeks, but the loading is a big deal.
Would you like a world where there's a little bit of, I guess, grey given to the match review committee and what they can hand down there? You use the 3 games as your basis, but knowing this is one right on the borderline.
And it's really not intentional. Fatigue plays a big factor.
Would you like them to have some scope in that sense, or is that getting into murky waters?
Well, the thing is if we're talking about right now, yes, absolutely. I wish they could just go, oh, man, look, fatigue. He got punished enough because he was sent 10 in the bin. And that's where the argument comes in with fans is sometimes players get punished twice. They get punished for the 10 in the bin, and then they get bloody suspended for 4 weeks. And it's well, you're punishing the team multiple times. And this is one where I feel like the 10 in the bin was sufficient because I feel like, I think Preston, you could see how disappointed he was. So he's learnt from that. And next time he's feeling that fatigue, he'll just be a little bit patient before losing his legs. And I'm not saying he did it intentionally because I don't think he did. I think he was just tired. I think he was trying to drag Tino and he just mistimed losing because people lose their legs in every tackle. It's just when you lose your legs is the key one. And fatigue plays a big part of that. And he'd had such a big game. Of course he was fatigued. And so I think that's adequate punishment for what happened. The problem is I say yes this time, but let's say another grey area comes up where I'm on the other side of it. You know what I mean? It's a hard one. It's a hard one. But if I have to be honest, 4 weeks for that, regardless of the build-up, regardless of all the fines, it does seem a bit much, doesn't it?
And so another one I'll put to you before we finish here, and it's a hypothetical. Joel Kane has long argued that Origin games, finals games, should be worth more in situations like this. Could you see a world where the NRL go, okay, it's an Origin game you're missing there, that's 2. Or that's double your money.
It's hard, though, because, he wouldn't have been definitely in that Origin squad.
No, exactly.
If you're a bloody Nathan Cleary
or a test case for that.
Yeah, it would be a great test. Okay, we've got some text here. Lads, I think the problem with the system is this. Players and clubs are so quick to take the early plea the first and second time, then the loading bites them after that. I mean, that's a good point.
That's exactly what has happened here.
Yeah, that is a fair point. Like, if they had have bitten it and gone, boom, the first one, wouldn't that have cleared his thing?
100%.
So you take that first one and that the loading doesn't exist then?
No. Once you've taken the guilty plea, you're acknowledging that you're guilty, so then you're locked in for that first one.
Yep.
So if they'd fought either of the second and one, then you're cleared.
Okay, so let's say you say, yep, I'm guilty, you missed that one match. Does that load on to the next time though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It is a fair point though, because then actually what's the point of that then? If it does load onto the second time, what's the point of that?
Well, it just means that you lose that charge.
Yeah.
Example. So if
but
you
it's
fought
just
the
instead
first
of the
or
money.
the second, yeah, exactly right.
It's just instead of the money, and no one is
doesn't
ever.
Go on your record if you let off.
But no one is ever going to say, yeah, I'd rather miss a game of rugby league than pay a fine of $1,000. So that's
exactly.
fair. Okay, Preston's 3 weeks, not 4. Yeah, I understand it's 3 weeks, mate, but he ends up with 4. And so you have, you look at it from just a wider perspective and you sit there and go, is that worth 4? Because that is the end result. Yes, he fought it, but it's more just the end result was 4. He didn't agree that it was worth that. And so whether he fought it or not fought it, whether it was 3 or 4, I'd still be sitting here saying, is it worth 3 weeks? And ironically, him fighting it is he's saying he doesn't even think it's 3 weeks. And yet he got 4 weeks for it. So I'm not suggesting, I understand it's 4. It's a really...
Can I put one more to you before we finish this? Tino's role in all of this, there's been some criticism. Gus Gould said that Tino went up and apologised to...
Who said that?
Gus said Tino went up and apologised, not to Preston, but to Stephen Crichton for laying down after that tackle. Is there a responsibility on the tackle player in this situation?
Look, I mean, did that happen?
Okay. Yeah.
That's
we're going on a word of Gus.
And also, it's just weird because Gus is with the Bulldogs.
Yes.
And then he's saying stuff like that publicly.
Yeah.
He said that before the judiciary thing?
Yeah, said it on 100% footy
Which is
on
just
Monday night. Yeah, he's fighting to get his player off.
But also it's not really appropriate to be saying stuff publicly. I know the ship has left the dock when it comes to...
It's halfway around the world.
But it is a little bit weird coming out and saying that Tino came up and said, I laid down. We don't... Look...
That wasn't taken into account during the judiciary
But also,
hearing.
the good old game of whispers, you can't call it what its old name was, but the good old game of whispers where you say one thing, and then eventually gets all the way back up to Gus. It might have been a different conversation. We don't know he actually said that. Now, look, hopefully, if it is true that was said, hopefully, that deters Tino from ever doing that again. But we've created an environment where, players are doing that. Tino's not the only one doing it. Matter of fact, find me a single team that doesn't do it.
I couldn't agree more on that.
There's even teams with coaches that a few years ago said, my team, I've told them never to do that. They now do it. There isn't a single team that doesn't do that. No one would ever not pay a fine then miss a game of footy, you reckon? Yeah, obviously, we understand Madison did it, but he came around to regret it. And he tried to change it. I think it was more maybe a principle thing for Ryan Madison, but what I more meant, guys, is I would never do that.
Well, and Ryan Madison is very much the outlier. I don't think we can find another one. If you can find us another one, text in 0457 736 736.
True. But the point of what I'm saying is, when you say that saying, what you're really saying is I would never ever do that. I think that's crazy. Now we are going to head to a break. So look, just to put a cap on it in regards to the Preston thing, like I agree. When the smell test of it all, 4 weeks for that, it's craziness. It's absolute craziness. Yep, he fought it. It would have been 3 otherwise. But what do you want the NRL to do in that situation? If that was his first case, it would have just been a fine and go ahead. But if they were to change their rules for this one time, then what happens all the other times? And so, yeah, I feel like the 10 in the bin was enough, though. I feel like the 10 in the bin was enough. Anyway, it is what it is. We're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got plenty more to talk about, guys. Some mad moments from Magic Round. We've got the Broncos resisting the temptation to bring Man back in. We'll talk about that. Plenty more to talk about. Well, welcome back to the Captain's Run. Getting quite a few texts here, guys, in regards to, you compare that to the Ezra Mam 9 weeks. Absolutely. Like obviously, every time we see someone get suspended for 3 or 4 weeks, it's the first thing you think. I said on my podcast when it came down, I felt that 9 weeks was really, really poor. I thought it should have been substantially longer for everyone involved. I actually think that it would have probably been best to be a whole season. I think that actually would have been best for all parties, but it is what it is. And so now we're in this situation where a lot of fans see their player get suspended for 4 weeks for a tackle and go, are you serious? And the NRL have brought that on themselves. They've brought that on themselves because, the 9 weeks, I don't think you could find many people that would sit there and say what, Ezra got suspended for was worth 9 weeks. I think most people would say anywhere from 6 to 12 months, in my opinion. I mean, Maestro, quickly before we go to break.
No, I tend to agree with you completely there, Kempy. But I think it's wrong to use that as a yardstick as much as fans can feel hard done by that players get long suspensions off the back of that. I think it's wrong to use that as a yardstick given off-field versus on-field and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but is it?
You tell me. Does anyone think the NRL got that right? I guess is a different way to frame it.
Yeah, I know, but you can still think they got it wrong, but it happened. Yeah. And so, for example, you're a fan of a team and your bloke, let's say the Bulldogs go on a 4-game losing streak and all the tries are down Preston's edge and then they drop out of the 4 and then all of a sudden, so there's I can understand the frustration of fans. And I know that they're not the same. I know that there's off-field, there's on-field. But at the end of the day, the reality is, it's a suspension. And so I can understand people's frustration. I really can. And Mam didn't give that suspension to himself. It was the NRL that gave him that. But I can understand the frustration. I really can. We'll talk about a bit more about that later because obviously we've got the Broncos resisting the temptation to bring Mam back in. But we'll head to a break. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. And you may be listening and just said, has the air gotten a bit more thicker with testosterone and aggression? Well, it did because Horo is with us, the great Justin Horo. He has joined us. How you going, brother?
Good. Beck, have you got me?
I got you. Yep, you're in.
I'm coming through?
You're good to go?
I can't hear myself at the moment, so as long as you can hear me, Kempy.
That's all that matters, baby.
No, going well, mate. Oh, ready to be. I'm about to plug this in, so that'll get me going. Here comes the Maestro.
Yeah, the Maestro.
There we go.
Yep.
That works.
All good.
Good, mate. Yeah, good to be here. Sort of just getting my bearings post Magic Round.
Yeah, okay.
It's always a big couple of days, as
ripping
you know.
Ripping and tearing and ripping?
Yeah, too much ripping.
Okay.
Too much ripping.
Okay. So that gets you. Sometimes you think you got to do a lot of ripping, but it's really the tearing you want to be doing.
Yeah, it's the tearing. Tearing gets the job done up there. But, mate, it was a good weekend. It's so well done up there. There's so much going on.
Mate.
But, yeah, just feel like everything is just delayed by a day for us because – even just doing the podcast first thing Monday morning for us.
Ooh, no,
we did Tuesday, and then everything's just been chaos over the last couple of days.
Mate,
but we're back now.
This is how good Magic Round is. You can literally go and not even into the stadium each day, and you'll still have an unbelievable time.
Such a good weekend.
Like, that's how good it is. You can sit in the Caxton for the whole bloody 3 days, and you'll still have the best time ever. Now, mate, let's talk some Origin Smokies. Got to stand up for this one. Because I want to know. Scope, first of all, one of the biggest Origin Smokies for the Blues and one of the biggest Origin Smokies for Queensland legit who you think might be a bolter to get picked. Speak to me.
From this list?
From
Or
whatever you want. Whatever you want.
So my bolter, and I've been on him for a year now after his form, my bolter to play a part in this series, Xavier Savage of the Raiders. There you go.
Speak to me. Okay, why Savage?
I threw that out. I just think, and they've played really well. So I feel like Xavier Coates is a spot.
Yep.
He's got a spot locked in. Murray Talangi's put together a really good month.
Yep.
A little bit shaky there at the start.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Selwyn Cobbo playing last year, not playing at times, like he hasn't necessarily been a lock. And then with the performances at the Broncos, I just think Xavier Savage has upside.
Okay.
And I think he'll play Origin at some point. And then maybe he will require an injury to actually get a crack. And then once he gets a crack, I reckon he's the guy that can play Origin for a while. I just like him as a player. I have for a while.
Is he speed that really gets you across the line?
Bit of everything. I loved him as a player when he hit the scene.
Yeah.
And I reckon his toughness.
Yeah, got much better.
Mate, some of the yardage carries, the biggest thing when I watch him closely, he makes a couple of poor reads one every couple of weeks. It used to be almost every game. But now he's got better. He's getting used to playing on the wing. The Canberra Raiders are playing good footy. And, I think, like, if we're talking smokies that not many other people are talking about, and not necessarily that he'll play game one, that he could play a game.
Series.
He could play a game if there's maybe, Selwyn starts on the wing, there's an injury or something happens to the centres, Selwyn goes in the centres, something like that could play out.
All right, I'll give my Queensland one, Smokey.
Okay.
I didn't lay the rules out. I apologise, Scott.
Okay, 1 for 1.
Rob Toya.
Yeah, I
Rob
like
Toya. Now, Purdue was also there. Obviously, I've spoken about him already, but I thought the game on the weekend really just drove Toya home for me. And I just looked at him and I thought, if there is one tiny knock on Purdue, it's like he's so young physically. Even though he's handled himself unbelievably, you could tell physically he's a teenager.
Yeah.
And he will play Origin. There is no doubt in my mind. Maybe even at 6 or 1, he can play in the halves as well. But Toya, for me, he's already beginning to get his man strength, and you can see physically. And I just wonder, just the physical nature of Origin, his body looks already prepared for. I know he's had some injuries or whatever, but this year, like, some of his strength in contact is like as good as any. His footwork's great. And I just think, if let's say you were to move off Val early, even though Val's been playing well in attack, sometimes in defence his reads haven't been great, and you would have a Hammer Toya centre pairing,
Ooh, I like
that is danger. That is danger in attack, and also relatively strong in defence. All right, now New South Wales.
Well, I like that. Just quickly on that too, with the Sydney Roosters going into this year, that was my biggest question mark. You lose the 2 Joeys, and I'd heard a lot about Robert Toya, but then I also heard that he had a number of injuries going into this season. So I thought, there's no way he hits his first season after an ACL injury last year, and then and also a number of senior players that have moved on. So I've been super impressed by Robert Toya. I'm looking at both Jackson Purdue and Toya for next season.
Okay.
They're my 2 guys for next season.
Okay, I like that. All right.
Looking over at the Origin Smokies here. Look, I don't think he's even a smoky now. I think a lot of people expect this guy to be next up, and that's the guy at the top of your list, Jacob Kiraz.
Oh, okay.
I think
at some point in the series?
I think Jacob Kiraz is one injury to what I deem to be the best back 4 of the 5, not including the fullback. And I think Jacob Kiraz gets a spot if either Latrell, Critter, Latrell on the left, Critter on the right, Brian To'o on the left wing with Latrell, and Zach Lomax on the right. I think if any of them are injured or have concerns, you can move, Lomax around potentially or whatever it may be, or even then you throw in a guy like Turbo. But I think Kiraz is there. I think Kiraz is very close.
Now, this is a smoky, and it's also in that same vein. Bronson Xerri.
Ooh, I seen Matty talking about Bronson Xerri a couple of weeks ago, and he wasn't even on my radar at all. But the more you think about it,
mate, he's in the best side in the competition.
Yep.
If you watch their game plan, it is literally built around getting to Bronson Xerri's edge. Whether it's a kick, whether it's a fifth tackle, there's actually a heat map that the great Sugar put together. And if you look at the Bulldogs heat map, it is all based around Bronson Xerri's attacking end of the footy. And so if you're in the best team in the competition right now and the game is based around getting you the ball in good ball, that's why I think he might be a bit of a smoky. And then my other just smoky for the Blues, it was okay. Here's a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Watson starts at 13, Luai potentially 14.
Ooh.
Thoughts?
Ooh, so who misses out? Yowie not...
No, on the bench, Yo.
Yowie on the bench?
Yo
no,
on the bench.
Well, that's why I'd rule that out.
Or starting in the front row and May on the bench. Because I see Yo as a front rower in Origin. I like him in the front row.
See, when I tossed up potentially having Jerome in the team because I didn't have Jerome in my halves, I was trying to figure out a way to have his energy.
That's what I was
as
too.
a part of the,
the
17.
spiritual side of it. It's not talked about enough, the fact that he's taken a wooden spoon side into the 8.
Yeah.
And I just think, and look, this is smoky chat, guys. So it's the far-fetched thinking, whatever.
There's always a couple every year, though,
Yes.
Kempy.
And I'm just thinking, if you want to try to squeeze Luai in, where he is sitting at the 14, if there's a head knock, if Cleary goes down, if Moses goes down, you could get him at 14. You start Connor at 13. You start with a front row of May, Isaiah Yo, and then you have Terrell May, Barnett off the bench with one of the big dogs, either Hudson Young or Olakawatu at 17.
Yeah, see, that's why I think you could do it anyway with the flexibility, whatever way you go. If you look at you're starting, if in your best front row was Terrell May and Payne Haas, I know it's Origin, and Terrell hasn't played it before. Payne has had some really good moments.
Yep.
But those two guys, if you asked them to, could punch out 60, 65. I think with the game's gone away at every single level away from having two out-and-out front rows on the bench.
Yep.
Especially when you've got the quality of guys like Payne Haas, Terrell May, Mitchie Barnett, wherever you may go. The odd guy out, really, and who was really good for him last year, who in my opinion could miss out, would be a guy like Spencer Leniu.
Yeah.
Because he was only on there for 20, 25 minutes. But, geez, that impact.
Oh, it was huge.
It was huge.
You could argue it changed the series. You could literally argue it would change the series.
So that's what you'd miss out on if you did go for more flexibility and more cover and then more energy with a guy like Jerome. But I don't hate it. The other guy, and I was huge on it going into the season, and then he missed 3-4 weeks with the hamstring injury.
Oh, yeah.
Was Dylan Lucas.
Yep.
He would have been a guy, if injury-free, and then because he's injury-free, I think, he was a huge out for the Knights when they lost 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah.
I reckon he's knocking on the door. It's a really highly contested spot.
And it's a utility factor as well. He came into grades as centre.
Centre, back row.
Yep.
I reckon you could chuck him in the middle.
Easy.
Just like a lot of them now, like whether it's Olakawatu, Huddy Young. Angus Crichton's getting a little bit older, even though he was the Wally Lewis medal winner last year. Liam Martin, he's just played a whole heap of footy. So not to knock those guys, I just think I love the potential and what Dylan Lucas could be.
Yep.
And he would be... I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a part in this series.
Okay, now this is for next year, but I reckon this bloke that I'm pointing at right now, Mark Nwanga Nitawase, not only will he be in the conversation, I think he'll be playing so well, he'll be putting pressure on the Lomax / Tom Trbojevic / Critter wing.
Yeah, well,
if you were to have
huge.
Critter on the wing, I know Critter would start no matter what in the centre.
Yep.
But the question is around Tom Trbojevic, Zach Lomax on that edge, or Latrell, whatever you want to go. I reckon Nwanga Nitawase will be playing so well that he'll be putting pressure to start there, not just let alone.
All right, before we get to Marky Mark, just listen or have a think
I'm
about...
getting excited, Scott.
No, and I agree with you for the bits that you just said then. Imagine even a year ago, Kempy, if we'd said, and I fully agree with you, that the one lock is Stephen Crichton.
It's crazy.
Everyone else, Turbo,
Mental.
Latrell, Brian Toto, Zach Lomax. Like Zach Lomax just hit the scene. But out of those three guys in particular, this time last year would have said it's them. But with what he's done at the Bulldogs and how he's performed in all those grand finals and at Origin level, I agree with you. Critter's the lock. Everyone else has an element, even if it's a small element, an element of doubt about their selection. Because I think Critter's a lock.
The only other one would be Toto would be close to Critter in the lock. Those two. But Critter for me, I'll go even further. And maybe I'm getting crazy, Scope. I get
Skipper.
a bit crazy. Maybe even Skipper.
You going Skipper?
Maybe.
I don't hate it.
Maybe. He's currently the captain of the best team in the competition.
Yeah.
He's young. If you're trying to build dynasties, baby, Critter's the man. He's the poster child. He fits the bill of, you see the poster as you drive past as the New South Wales cap. You know what I mean? Like all of those things. And I know it's all carry on, it's all marketing. I'm just saying, baby.
I'm not a big fringe guy.
Not a big fringe guy?
Yeah, I'm not a big fringe.
Oh, get rid of the fringe then. Okay.
Critter, just grow it out a little bit like
so you
the
just ride the Recedo like Isaiah Recedo? You like your captain with a bit of receding.
All right, let's go back to Marky Mark. As we just went on a nice little tangent there. The Roosters have their right edge locked up for the next 3 years. Those two guys, two Smokies, Rabbitohs and Marky Mark, I've been so impressed by them in the last couple of weeks. And
100%.
I'm not going to completely push back. I think there's some really good players. If you think about still the key players that we mentioned, Brian Toto, Zach Lomax just was unbelievable because he's been at Parramatta. The results haven't been as well, and he's been injured for the last couple of weeks. You just got to go back to what he did in that Origin last year and just remember how good he was.
Yep.
So I think, it's going to take a really big effort to go past guys like Zach Lomax and Brian Toto, but Marky Mark and Kiraz over the next couple of years, I feel like they're going to be in a position to apply pressure.
What about the Roosters' ability to go from, oh my God, their outside backs are decimated, to you might have the two best young gun outside backs in the comp, in Toya and Nwangani Tuwase, that may play Origin for the next 4 or 5 years. Anyway, we're going to head to a break. Text 0457 736 736. Have we gone crazy, guys? Have we gone crazy? Or you love the Smoky chat? Let us know your Smokies, guys. Let us know your Smokies. Got plenty of text here. 0457 736 736. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. That's right, DJ Grumpy dropping his first ever set. We've got a DJ for Grumpy Coffee. His name is DJ Grumpy. Go and check out Grumpy at Grumpy Drinks. Scopes, he's laughing. He doesn't know what's going on. Yeah, look, I'm a bit crazy, baby. I'm a bit crazy.
I know you are, baby.
But trust me.
But it works.
It's going to work.
Somehow it works.
Go to Grumpy Drinks, dropping our first set tonight. We've got go to our YouTube as well, Grumpy Coffee, and you can watch that set. It's dropping at 6 o'clock tonight. Plus, grab some Grumpy Coffee from grumpycoffee.com.au. Go to text here. Afternoon, boys. Kempy, I've been waiting to message you this. You said weeks ago you would have Tom and Latrell in the centres and Critter miss out in State of Origin. How could you drop the best centre in the league and the biggest big game player that has stepped up in Origin grand final games every time he's played? Latrell and Tom are great players, but no player owns a jersey in form. Players should get first crack. I think if you go back and listen, the context was I was talking about I didn't say that I would select that. I was talking about, Maestro, you remember this, we're talking about the Bulldogs could go through the Origin period of maybe maybe Tom and Latrell are selected for Origin and Critter, misses out. Therefore, they don't actually have that many players in Origin. Therefore, they could win the minor premiership. I was talking about the Bulldogs' incredible run that could potentially happen if they only have one or two Origin players. Because when you think about it, right now, if Harry Grant's back, Reid Marnie won't be in there. Critter is really the only guaranteed in that roster that I'm thinking of. Who else would be a guarantee in that roster?
Yeah, no one else a guarantee. A few Smokies, like we've talked about.
Yep.
Kiraz potentially. Kurt Mann, his name's been
on the
tossed
bench
up.
potentially. Yeah.
Jacob Preston was a chance before the suspension. His name was floated about. But yeah, no one outside of Critter.
So my point is that could happen. It wasn't I wouldn't select Critter because I would go as far as selecting Critter on the wing if I had to, just because he's a winner. And just back to in regards to how we were talking about last segment, how crazy it is that 12 months ago, who would say the Critter was the most locked in out of all those superstars we talked about? Critter is the perfect example of second chances in Origin. Go back to his debut under Freddie Fittler. It was a Barry Crocker. Like, it was, one of those, never have an Origin crack again. He got another chance.
Did he come off the bench or Katoni?
Dropped the ball.
Was Katoni started and then he come on for Katoni?
No, so Staggs started his one and he injured his shoulder, but I don't think it was that same game.
Okay.
I think it might have been at Suncorp his debut potentially, but he came on and dropped a ball and it was just an absolute Barry.
Yep.
And an example of, I get it's hard for Origin coaches, I really do, when they get crucified for dropping players. But sometimes there is a lot of method to the madness of if a player has a Barry Crocker, to not drop him and give him another opportunity because it's just one game. And if you're going to if he was picked in your game one, then you've got to trust him for the whole series. And I know it's easy for me to say, I'm not the coach with his head on the chopping block every single series, but Critter is a really good example of that. Of if a coach hadn't have come and given him another chance, he would have been lost to the Origin, arena. For a period,
just
at least.
Critter in general.
Yeah.
Like, he was a late bloomer. He wasn't even a superstar through the junior development. I think he was playing second division at, the mighty St. Clair Comets too. He's a St. Clair Comets alumni, just like the Skipper Scope. And it took him a while to get started. He wasn't making rep teams
That's
until he was like
crazy.
17 or 18, Kempy. So how far he's come, the leadership that he's shown, where he's got the Bulldogs, he has performed time after time on the big stage, whether it's for the Penrith Panthers, whether it's for New South Wales, even if it's for Samoa. What about that
Field goal.
That field goal
Crazy.
and that World Cup campaign he put together with Jerome Luai a couple of years ago was outstanding.
Mate, it's a really good example for any young fella that if you're not making the rep sides, it doesn't mean you're not one of the best players. And there's an argument to be made for a 24-year-old. He has some of the best big moment highlights in big games ever. Because he had the intercept against the Rabbitohs.
Yep.
He had Cleary was a big part, and Fish and Leota in 23 against the Broncos. But it was actually Critter's try, but also his kick.
What about the loose ball that he jumped on
too? Like there are big moments in that game. Then you go back to the series before that against Parramatta. He try-saving tackle and also an intercept that kept him in the game when they nearly lost to Parramatta. Like they're just so many with Critter. He's just such a bloody good player. All right, just quickly. Do they just go with Dylan Edwards, or the pressure Teddy is putting on him is immense, like truly immense? Essentially, right now, Teddy is on the verge of going back-to-back Dally-M fullbacks at the moment because he's been the best fullback this year, again.
He even said it himself after the game. Because he's on the other side of it, it's been a benefit to him. He's playing with so much more or less pressure. You got to remember, for 5 years, there was constant speculation going into every year whether he was going to be the fullback.
Yeah.
Was it going to be Turbo? Was it going to be Latrell?
Yeah.
Then Dylan Edwards started applying pressure for a couple of years. Pappy was in there for a couple of years, went fit.
Yep.
Like every Origin series he would go into, it's like, will someone go past him? Now Dylan Edwards got that from him last year. And then because of that, he didn't play game 2, game 3, and he actually didn't even play for Australia at the end of the year. He's looking as good as anyone in the competition right now.
Yep.
And it's because actually all the international and rep footy's gone away from him. He's been able to front load into the Roosters. So he's playing with house money, Kempy.
Yeah.
If he gets selected, he's going to do a job.
Yeah.
And the big question mark is, if it was Madge coaching this year, I'd assume that Dylan Edwards would be the guy.
Yeah.
But because it's Laurie, I just don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know which way Laurie's going to go. I think it'll be Dylan Edwards, but I can't say that with any confidence.
I think what gets Dylan Edwards over the line for sure is just that Cleary, Yo, Critter, even Luai, if Luai makes it, connection.
Yeah.
That helps him a lot, that Penrith kind of connection. But it's just the makings of a champions. And you're right, like the playing with house money, like for essentially the first time since he got debuted into Origin, the first time he's almost the pursuer.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that has to watch Dylan Edwards under pressure, that's watching everything. If they lose, it's all Dylan Edwards' fault. It should have been Teddy. Whereas usually whenever, if he plays Origin and they lose, it's all, you should have picked Pappy, you should have picked Tommy, you should have picked Trell.
Yep.
It's the makings of a champion, though. The fact that, people were calling him washed 3 years ago. And now he is being the best fullback consistently for the past 2 years. Now, listen, guys, we're about to head to a break, but huge breaking news. Career Mail is reporting David Fifita is being shopped to other clubs. Looks set to leave the Titans. Club confirmed to have been contacted about acquiring the Titans forward. Fifita is reportedly willing to take a pay cut to get out of the Gold Coast Titans. We're talking about a bloke that nearly went to the Roosters on a mammoth deal only last season. This is huge, huge breaking news, guys. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Shop the Chemist Warehouse Mother's Day fragrance sale. Okay, now, in regards to the halves, we're getting closer and closer to Origin scope, and the pressure is mounting. You've got Luai, who has taken a wooden spoon side, essentially into the top 8. You've got Cleary, who just hit straps again against the Broncos. Now, he'd actually been okay, but the Panthers aren't going well. But on the weekend, he was outstanding. You've got Mitchell Moses, who his comeback game was incredible. He was bloody good against the Sharkies as well.
Yep.
Then you add into all of this, Moses and Luai went up to Suncorp and did something that no other halves pairing had done for 15 years. And you could argue Moses dominated the Origin series when he got in there. With all that being said, you're the coach. Who are you selecting at 6 and 7 for the New South Wales Blues in 2025?
I think this is the simplest way, and there is no simple answer because you've got three really good options. But if I was to start a team right now from scratch, not New South Wales, not Queensland, not Penrith, not Tigers, not Parramatta, which player would I pick?
Yep.
It's Nathan Cleary.
Okay.
So this is where there's been some pushback. There have been people who have been blowing up, whether it's SEN, whether it's Bloke, whether it's Levels, talking about the Tedesco and Edwards situation, about him applying pressure and being thereabouts.
Yeah.
Now, the difference between, considering Nathan to go back in and for me being the front runner is it was different. Dylan Edwards beat Teddy out last year. They were both fit.
Yep.
And then Dylan Edwards wasn't fit for game one, so Teddy came in. And then once he was fit again, Madge put him back in. So he won that position. Not to say that those two didn't win it in Mitch Moses and Jerome Luai, but we didn't know because Nathan wasn't fit during that period. So Nathan, for me, is the best player in the world.
Okay.
He is the 7, and then it's up to Laurie to go where he wants to go with the 6.
Okay.
I would go because I think it's a huge advantage based off of what happened last year with Nathan and Mitch, because I just think they're two dominant kickers, and it would turn a Queensland strength, which has been a Queensland strength in years past, into I would give New South Wales the strength with the kicking game of Mitch Moses and Nathan Cleary as a partnership.
Okay, you're speaking my language because I felt the exact same way, and it'd be probably the first series ever where I believe the Blues could outkick the Maroons. Whereas one of the biggest key factors in DC's dominance over Cleary for that little period, he just kicked him out of the game. And Ben Hunt, to a degree, out of 9. Now, Cleary's kicking was still good, but it was just the choice of kicks that DC and Hunt made, having played Origin, knowing when to kick on 3, knowing to kick earlier. However, do you think they have enough time to get the combination working well that you would need, that Luai could do with both Moses? So Moses has proven that, Luai has proven that he can work really well with Moses and really well with Cleary, and he's an out-and-out 6, a brilliant running game and a brilliant, Robin. He's a brilliant, they're Batman, he's Robin.
Yep.
You can make the argument he's the best Robin in the competition.
Of all time.
And I don't even say that disrespectfully.
No.
Look what he's done with Galvin. He's just gone, you're the man. I'll take a step back. I'll do everything I can to make you the best you can be. Are you sacrificing the best Robin of this generation to have two Batmans?
Yeah, it's a good question. And you're right. He never gets enough credit for that. Never has. Like, to be able to take the back seat, and you can see that he's clearly capable of taking and being a dominant player when asked to. The short answer is yes. Mitch Moses is a lead as well. He's played in different systems. He's played different roles. I think he plays a hybrid 7-6 role anyway. I think his best part of his game is running and kicking game. And if you go back to some of the pressure that Nath was on for those couple of years, Jerome's a good kicker. He's not a great kicker. James Tedesco and Dylan Edwards don't kick at all.
Yeah.
Reece Robson is an okay kicker. Hardly ever see him kick. So they've never had the options that Queensland have had. Same to Daly Cherry Evans has been the key, but Munster's similar to Luai. Good kicker, not a great kicker.
Yep.
But then you have Ben Hunt potentially playing 9.
Harry Grant all right as well.
And Harry Grant's so much better than, a Reece Robson situation or a Connor Watson or anything like that. So
even KP and Walsh can kick to a degree.
KP and Walsh were another third or fourth best kicker for him in a team. So that was a strength of Queensland, where I think if you go with Mitch and Nathan, that's clear advantage to New South Wales.
Ooh, okay. So you're going Nathan at 7?
Yep.
Mitch at 6.
Yep.
Is there any world where you go Mitch at 7, Nathan at 6?
No, the one thing I'd be clear about, because I do think Mitch has the best long kicking game, I would have Mitch on the right, because I want Mitch to be able to sit on the right side of the ruck and just belt it as far as possible.
Okay.
So that would be the change. It doesn't bother me who wears 7 and 6 out of the two.
Yeah.
But I'd move Nathan from his preferred position on the right, and I'd move him to the left to account for Mitch having the better kicking game out of the two.
Okay. Now, in regards to Queensland, this bench spot, you got Benny Hunt, you've got Dearden, you've even got the psychopath, you got Mann. There's so many different options you can take. What do you go with? I think you've locked in DCE, Munster. Me personally, I've locked them in. I think you'd be crazy, at least for game 1.
Yep.
But what do you do with your bench then?
Yeah, DCE, Munster, 7 and 6. I don't think it's a lock, even though it's something that it's what I would do.
Yeah.
And that's not even, the best mate thing going on.
Are you best mates with DC?
Yeah, well, I haven't said that before on SEM, but there we go. There's a breaking story for everyone.
Did you know I played soccer? Played a bit of soccer myself, actually.
And Tommy did in 14. He's playing unreal. He's a goer. You could play Tommy Dearden in the front row
And he'd
put
still go.
and put a Queensland jersey on him.
Yeah.
And he'd play it tough and he'd do a job.
Yep.
He'd get battered around, but he'd keep getting up.
Yeah.
And not to say Ben Hunt wouldn't do that, but I just think, Cherry Evans and Ben Hunt are 30 to 35 to 36 range. I think this is the year to blood Tom Dearden. So whether it's Ches who misses out because of Tommy Dearden or whether it's Hunty at the 14 jersey, I think this is the year where one of them might miss out.
I will say, if let's say in a crazy world, Queensland have lost 1-2, I do think that you'll probably see Dearden starting in the halves. If that, let's say he's 14 and Queensland lose game 1 and 2, I think you'll probably see Dearden go straight into the halves.
He could be a huge chance if they lose game 1.
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
Billy's not going to wait till game 2
fair.
if the series is done.
That's fair.
To make a drastic change like that to the start is if you do end up going with, just say if you end up going with Munster, Cherry and 14, Ben Hunt like they've always done, Billy won't stuff around and wait till game 3 and the series done to make a huge change like Dearden. So I think it depends on what happens in game 1. And I think, that's what I would do for game 1. But I think there's probably a world where he goes with something that he's familiar with and knows what he's going to get out of in DC and Hunty for the first game.
Now, just quickly, are we so sure? Everyone has just locked Reece Robson in. They've just gone, yep, Reece Robson's on. Is that a sure thing?
Yep. I'm happy with Reece. Who's the Connor Watson applying pressure and Appy?
Well, you've got smokies like Egan.
Yeah, Egan.
You've got, obviously, Appy Coruscant could come back into the side. Connor Watson has been playing really well at 9 for the Roosters. I probably wouldn't start Connor there, but you could obviously, bring him off the bench. And the big knock with Appy would be you don't want him playing long minutes because then he starts missing tackles, but his craftiness around the ruck. So there are those options for the Blues.
I love the Egan shout. A couple of years ago, he was my smoke. If we would have said a couple of years ago, who's your smoky? Who's going to place? Who would take over from Appy just because of the creativity and the subtlety? And he come through the Penrith system too, so he knew all those players, which was a tick as well. Let's knock on wood here for Warriors fans, any Wars fans. I hope he stays healthy, but 2023, he had a couple of head knocks. I think last year he had elbow, wrist surgery, and he just couldn't stay on the field. He's got through and started the year unreal. If he could, put together a really good campaign for the Warriors, then he's a shout in the future as well because he's a class player. He's a class 9.
Well, you're looking at the 9 for a top 4 side with an unproven spine of Metcalf, Harris Tavita, and Charles Nickel-Klukstad.
Yeah,
the fact that they're in the top 4 on paper is crazy, and you would have to say Egan is the senior player there. So there's that. That's he's in form. He's the key man there. So there is that.
His service from dummy half is just so crisp, and especially those ones where every hooker can throw a good pass from dummy half when they're looking from the ground.
Yeah.
But he has the ability to get out, try to draw in that A and B defender, and whip a dart 15 metres and hit Metcalf on the chest. Metcalf's getting all the credit. And because he's the 7 and he's playing great, right? Don't get me wrong. But I'm telling you, Egan through the middle has been outstanding for the Warriors.
Absolutely. All righty, we are going to head to a break. We got plenty more to talk about after the break, so stay tuned and we'll see you on the other side. All righty, breaking news. Dave Fifita is being shopped to other clubs. Listen, I think when you saw the whole ruled out indefinitely for an ankle injury and then he was running at training, I think you could see what was going on there. Man, What a disappointing turn of events. What a disappointing turn of events. Especially, what I find so strange about this is he had to deal with the Roosters. And then Tino convinces him to stay. And so you'd have to think okay, Fifita is picking up what Tino's putting down. He's all in. He's willing to, almost tarnish his reputation publicly for backflipping on the Roosters deal to commit to the Titans. And then less than 12 months later, he's getting dropped from the side, and it's just you just wonder, has he struggled mentally since that decision because he didn't make the Queensland side? Mm-hmm. His form dropped towards the back end of last year. Heading into this year, his form hasn't been great. It just disaster of a situation, and I think that we're talking about a guy that I think he's still only 25, 24. He's still young as anything, and he just. what I will say as well with Fifita, although the back end of last year wasn't great, he actually started the year last year relatively well. And his year before, when Foran straightened him up, was great. And I actually think he played in Queensland for that and played really well in that series. And so it's just, I think they see his last kind of, let's just say, 20 games of rugby league. And they think, oh, well, he's been like that for years now. It actually hasn't been playing that poorly for that long. I mean, the Roosters wouldn't have offered him such a big deal if he was playing poorly. And so it's not like it's years of poor form. But, mate, I'd love to get your thoughts on what's going on at the time.
That's the frustrating thing if you're watching David Fifita. And being an ex-back rower myself, Kempy, just seeing what he has in the kit bag. The size, the speed, the offload, the skill set. He can put a kick in. He's got a nice soft touch. I had to fight for every single game that I got, Kempy, to see a guy like that, in my opinion, right now, go in and out of games, go in and out of seasons.
Yeah.
Like, you're right in the sense where the average fan might only watch 4 or 5 Titans games. He's got games a year and go, oh, he's been like this for years. No, he hasn't.
Yeah.
And this is the frustrating part. I called the Dragons game about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, he was unbelievable.
In a badly beaten team, he was easily the best player for the Titans. Coming off a really bad performance the week before with 5 carries for 37 metres or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Now, it might be a little bit off, but it's not too far off.
Yeah.
So when I'm watching him, I'm like, man, come on. And that's what the Titans must be feeling right now.
Yeah.
And Desi's looking at that going, all right, maybe a little reality check will pull him into line. We've seen Todd Payton do it to Jeremiah Nanai at the start of the year.
Yeah.
Different circumstances. I think it was more defensively and attention to detail with Jeremiah that he had to work on. But huge decision. Looks to have paid dividends for the Cowboys. They struggle the week after. He comes back in and Jeremiah's on fire at the moment.
Oh, mate.
So maybe he looked at that and goes, oh, mate, let's see if I can get a reaction out of the big fella.
Yeah.
It's gone the other way. And I don't know, I've never met David Fifita. He's just never struck me as the sort of guy. He looks like a real deep thinker. Do you know what I mean by that? Like he looks like a guy that hurts. He feels things. Like he's a big body. There are times sometimes when I watch him play going, the prime example, there's a player that used to sort of, push him and shove him all the time was Tavita Pangai Jr. And they were ex-teammates and it went back from the Broncos things. And sometimes I'd watch him go, give him a stiff arm right in the face. And not because I've got anything against Tavita Pangai Jr. It's just, there's like a little brother, big brother mentality that I've seen from Dave watching those games. And I was like, man, if I was 120 of the best, like no one would be stepping over top of me. Like that would be my mindset.
Yeah.
So those are the sort of the things that I've seen with Dave over the last couple of years, and even dating back to the back end of the Broncos deal. Where do you think you end up, Kempy? Like, what have you got any mail on the 2 spots?
Mate,
because you're just breaking this as we go as well.
Yeah. Listen, I can tell you where he shouldn't end up. He shouldn't end up at a club that doesn't have a big dog 6 or 7 on his side. And what I mean by that is his best season arguably was when Foz was constantly beside him saying, Fifita, get here, get there, do this, do that. And I do think Fifita is the type of player that needs a big dog player next to him, constantly telling him what to do. And maybe that'll change as he matures and grows. In like maybe by the time he hits 28 or 29, he'll be, grow more into a man and understand that he can motivate himself to get to certain points in the field. But I felt I saw the best footy from him when Foran was. Now, we didn't see all the flary stuff. We didn't see 18 or 17 tries in the year. But what we did see was 10 to 15 hard, straight running games in a game, runs a game. And also his defence was cleaned up. And so I think wherever he ends up, he can't afford to be outside a young halfback that doesn't have big runs on the board.
Fully agree. Can I just sneak in a bit here just because of my relationship with Foz? The reason Dave plays at his best, so you got to think, right, for how many years people have just thrown him in the ball and told him to run over people?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Foz is so direct with where he wants you to go, but also as a back rower, I ran my hardest with Foz every single time because I know Foz would take a lick for me.
Yeah, it's fair.
Now, you think about that from over the years, I don't think there are a number of guys that have played in the halves with Dave that have gone, he's had full confidence in to go, he's going to take a lick for me. Every other player I've played with has just gone, here, you run over 3 people, get me a quick play of the ball, and then we'll go. So that is a huge factor.
Alrighty, we're going to head to a break. We're going to get to where he may end up and, what club could use a big fella like David Fifita. Alrighty, now we're just in the break. We're just talking. There's people reckon I'm trying to sabotage the New South Wales Blues selection by...
Yeah, Beak, so the clip's gone up. You're talking about New South Wales selection. You're wearing a maroon cardigan, bloke cardigan here. So very one-eyed in people's opinions, and they think you're trying to get in Laurie's head, mate. You're trying to get in Laurie's head.
Just because we both got big beaks doesn't mean we have telekinesis and we can actually think in each other's heads. Come on, mate. I tell you what, there's only this jungle's only big enough for one big beak.
Yeah.
The great Laurie Daly. I'm sure he'll select who he wants to select. We're going to go to a break. After the break, we're going to get on a deep dive. Who should select? Who should sign David Fifita and Horo? You're bouncing.
See you later.
We'll see you next week. Welcome back to the captain's run at 2:30. He made the Australian squad last year. He's a bolter for Origin this year. It's the big fella, Belmore's most beloved bulldog, Jacob Kiraz. That's right. He's joining us at 2:30. Alrighty, Fifita. He is on the market right now. Where could he end up? Now, reportedly willing to take a pay cut. So that would suggest he's probably, he's on about 900K at the moment. Maybe you could get him for about a 700 or 800K. Listen, I will say, and in regards to Fifita, you talk about all of these external things and things not working at the Titans. But at the end of the day, Fifita's career is in his hands. It is his choice whether he wants to go and be remembered as one of the most damaging back rowers of his generation. I actually think he also would suit the front row, but that's a conversation for another time. I've been speaking about him moving into the front row for quite a while just to get him fully engaged in the game. But let's, back to the point. At the end of the day, you can talk about the fact that the Titans are struggling and, older and big dogs in 6s and 7s that can tell him where to go and what to do. You can talk about, coaches that can get the best out of him. You can say, he needs to be outside Cleary or he needs to be down at the Melbourne Storm. But that is all irrelevant. What is the most important is that Fifita makes a choice going forward, that he is going to be the best version of himself. Because if he doesn't, the saddest thing in rugby league, it's not the bloke that plays 10 games and then, doesn't play another game. It's not the battler that gets injured at 150 games and he can't play anymore. The saddest thing in any endeavour in life is not fulfilling your potential. That is the saddest part of any endeavour in life. And I think that Fifita needs to make that choice. He needs to make that choice. And this is coming from a guy that, as I said, it really has been from about halfway through last year to now. Before that, he was playing some pretty good footy. The year before that, outside Foz, he was playing some bloody good footy. And I just think Fifita, he has to make that choice. Is he all in? If not, take a smaller wicket, maybe go over to Super League, live your life, travel a bit. You'll be able to score about 4 tries a game. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's anywhere near Super League at the moment. But what I'm saying is it really does have to be a choice. You can take him to the best systems in the competition, but it all starts inside with Fifita. Does he want to be the best version of himself? He's still got plenty of time. He still have plenty of clubs that will be interested in him. But the last thing you want to do is be one of those guys thinking, you know what? I could have been better. I could have committed more. Maestro, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So the first thing to note here is the reason that he backflipped reportedly from the Roosters deal was that he wanted to stay in Queensland, right? So straight away you're looking at the other Queensland clubs. North Queensland, maybe a bit far north. He's not going to the Broncos.
See, just quickly, sorry to interrupt you, mate.
Yeah.
I think even that needs to go.
Yeah, it's just get yourself in a system.
It really needs to be not, I don't want to live in I want to live in Queensland or I'll only live in New South Wales. It needs to be, no, I'll go wherever the best I'll be. That's it. I'm going to go to the club where I'm going to be the best version of myself. And that doesn't, I know people immediately think Penrith or Storm. That doesn't necessarily mean that. It might be the bloody Tigers. It might be the Tigers where he goes, you know what, I'm going to go there and I'm going to fully commit to being the best version of myself. Sorry for interrupting, mate.
No. Great. It's a poignant point. But I was basing my thinking off that, and it's not a club that's been particularly successful, but perhaps somewhere you're a little bit further out of the spotlight as much as you you can be, given his profile, especially the fact he's currently at the Titans, is the Dolphins are an obvious one. Then if you are moving out of Queensland, are you going the Warriors? Are you going the Storm? Like,
Now, I'll tell you this.
you're looking at holes in rosters. They're probably the clubs that you're looking at the moment.
Mate, I'll tell you this much for free. And this is my connection.
Yes.
Could you imagine an edge back row pairing of Halasima and Fifita? Like, that could arguably be the greatest back row pairing if they're both at their best, obviously. But I know that's my Waz heart coming out. I don't think he'll end up over in New Zealand.
No, I don't either.
However, mate, who knows? Maybe that is an option for him to go, you know what? I'm going all in on this.
And you're focused. There's nothing else in your life.
Yep.
If you move over to New Zealand and you talk about fulfilling potential, that's a place he could do it. I don't know if the Storm would take him, given the character
History,
stuff, but maybe Craig Bellamy looks at him and goes, hey, there's so much potential there. It'd be silly not to try.
The only thing with the Storm, I think that they would put him as in the middle.
Yeah.
Because Blore and Katoa have been phenomenal.
Exactly. So then you're up there with Utoikamanu. That's a bit scary.
Yeah, wow. Utoikamanu, that's a scary front rower.
Exactly.
As I said, I just think that even if you look, because you could look at the Titans and you could say, mate, that club's been a basket case for a while now. And I say basket case just with their on-field performances. They're actually, the owners have put in so much time and effort. Yeah. I think it's the Frizzels.
Yes, correct.
They've been really good at a club, in a part of the country that just hasn't seen success in professional sport. They've been really, really committed to it. And I think as fans, we should appreciate that. But I just think that's almost irrelevant in the Fifita situation, because I think that in the last 12 months, if we're all being honest, he hasn't shown that he's fully committed to being the best version of himself. In regards to where he's could he land at Manly?
That was the other one. If you're coming back down to Sydney and you're looking at a club that are struggling for forward depth at the moment, hello.
And then what would you move Ben to the bench of Vojvovic into the middle potentially, or a bench player?
I think he'd become a bench player, wouldn't he?
And then you just get him to plug a few holes, or you could have Fifita be a front row. Honestly, in today's game, 20 to 40 minutes of Fifita through the middle. I know it sounds crazy, and people called me crazy. I was talking about this a couple of years ago. I just think he would suit it, because what happens with that is you are just in the game.
Yep.
There is no way that because the problem with edge back rower, and it's not just David Fifita, there are plenty of back rowers when you look at their stats, they've had 6 runs and 50 metres or whatever.
It's very easy to fade out of a game.
Easy, because it's so important you keep your width. It's so important. You're there running lines all the time. There's so many things that go into being an edge back rower. And so, that's what I just think, mate, move him into the middle and just get him ripping and just say, mate, go on for 20 minutes and just give me the hardest, even 15-minute stints, 2 15-minute stints, and you just go, give me the hardest 15 minutes of your life each week. And you could pay him $600K for that, because he would tear games apart.
It's interesting, the role he was playing when he came into first grade versus what you're looking at the leading edge back rowers now in the competition doing. A guy like a Hudson Young, who's so dynamic and has such great foot speed, versus Fifita, who's a battering ram, really. That's how the Titans used him most effectively. The role's changed a little bit, hasn't it? In his 5 years or so in first grade.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's much more expected from back rowers now. I think that the standard has lifted of no, you can't really just, sit out there and wait for the game to come to you. You've got to really engage in it. If I'm being honest, in where I really would like to see him land, and, for not too much, obviously, but it's the West Tigers.
Yeah.
Mate, get him on an edge. Is it Seyfarth and Luai on one edge? So get him with Luai. Luai will be. I think Luai could understand him. I think Luai, because the thing with David Fifita, mate, he's a bloody good bloke. He is such a nice guy. We've had him on the captain's run before. Often people conflate because he's not having the best season that he's not a good bloke. David Fifita's a bloody good bloke. He's a legend of a kid, or a young man. But yeah, you get him down there, and Luai, because Luai is around the same age, 26, 27, and obviously Fifita is about 25, is he?
Yeah, 25 now.
25. So they're around the same age. Mate, imagine the combination that they could build together. Because we've already seen Luai do it with Kickout. Imagine what he could do with David Fifita.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, you could look at Manly, you could look at all these clubs, but I reckon Tigers. I reckon if I had to pick one club I'd like him to land at, it would be the Tigers.
Who would have thought you'd be saying that a year or two ago about players' development? Might be best to go West Tigers.
Well, just, it's you could say the obvious ones like the doggies and all that stuff. But first of all, the doggies have such a set plan. I just don't think that they're going to deviate from that at the moment.
Yep.
And they've got Preston and Kick out on edge, so
They've
they'd have
got
to
two
be
of
in
the
the
best
middle.
in the comp.
And so they wouldn't do that. He'd have to be more of a bench middle player. However, mate,
Fair impact if you get him going.
Yeah, if you can get him at the doggies for let's say a 600-700K, because he's made all his money. He was on $1 million 5 years ago. You get him off the bench at the Bulldogs. Mike, you take that system where they can drown you out of games, but at the same time bring a guy like Fifita on for 30 minutes a game, 15 minutes each half, or something along those lines.
To give Kick-out a rest.
Mate.
Or Preston a rest.
It's game over.
Yeah.
It is game over. Then you've obviously got the Panthers with if Sorensen's getting a little bit older. But me personally, I like the Tigers. I would like to, because then you can move Seyfarth into the middle rotation. You stick him outside Luai. You know Luai's going to be able to relate really well with him. We've seen how good of a leader Luai is. He does not get I don't know what this man has to do to get the respect he deserves in regards to what he's achieved in his career. And he just does it. We spoke about it earlier, the greatest Robin of all time. And we don't even say that. I don't say that disrespectfully at all. If he's Robin, I'm one of those dudes that get killed in the first 5 minutes of the movie. So, let's not, we're not making no jokes. I'm the guy that rocked up with the Joker and got killed by him in Dark Knight Returns or something. Okay, got some text here. David Fifita's partner is from West Sydney. Okay. Kempy, likely Sorensen is off to the UK in 2026, but does Fifita have the right attitude to Panthers? I think he could. He's 25. He's in rugby league years now, that's young as anything. I think he can. And we have to remember, we're talking about a guy that's played Origin and played well in Origin. So he has the right attitude. It's just a matter of doing it year in, year out. Parra could always swap Madison or Lane for Fifita. Okay, yeah, Parra. Okay, Mitchell Moses would have could get him around the park. Got another text here. Seraldo get the best out of him. Would he fit at the Dogs? High Kempy play Fifita as a Greg Eastwood style 13. Yeah, potentially. He wouldn't get much ball playing, but he would be great footwork to get around the park. Heads up, boys. The best tippers going around. Hey, boys. The Eels need some punch in the forwards and would have Moses in his ear telling him what to do, or rip in, sorry. In addition, having ex-front rower Riles as a coach. From the Joe. Okay, yeah. Look, the Eel shout I don't mind. What I like about him going to a rebuilding club, as long as if he went to a rebuild club that was on and he was on 1.3 million, that would concern me because I'm going, okay, big wicket. Okay, if he's going there and he says, you know what, I'll take 600-700K. I like where his mind's at there because he's going, all right, fresh start, can be a part of a rebuild. I've got another text here. What about Newcastle? So you got Dylan Lucas, Kaipius Paul. Yeah, could potentially see that. There has been talk about Kai Pearce-Paul potentially signing with another club. I do think that you just, for whatever reason, the Newcastle have not utilised Kai Pearce-Paul correctly. He's a bloody good player. And so, yeah, you could, him and Lucas on an edge. That's a friggin' good edge back row combination. The future at the Knights, he's got Dill Brown coming. Adam O'Brien, he's relatively safe at the moment, but I wouldn't say he's so safe that you would sign a long-term deal there. But I don't mind it. I got Dragons could do with him and Molo moving on. With Molo moving on. So you've got at the moment, you've got Egan on one edge, and then you've got Sewer on the other edge. He's actually, I think he's good friends with Sewer, so there's that connection. But I still like the Tigers shout. Outside Tigers or Parra?
Selfishly, I'll go Manly, but you've talked me into that West Tigers theory for sure.
Here's here we go. Come on, turn it up, Rob. He said, the bloke that usually gets killed in the first 5 minutes of Batman is Bruce Wayne Sr., financial magnate and father of Wing Crusader, humble brag, B. Come on, Rob. If somehow, some way you've had a crack, that's unbelievable. I can't believe. All right, we're going to a break. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. All righty, we've got Kiraz. He is joining the show later. You do not want to miss it. Let's get into some previews. But first of all, we are here for Chemist Warehouse. Shop the Chemist Warehouse Mother's Day fragrance sale now and grab some Grumpy Coffee from grumpycoffee.com.au. We've got whole bean, we've got ground, we've got pods. We've also got a brand new DJ. That's right, DJ Grumpy. Head to Grumpy Drinks at Grumpy Drinks on Instagram and Facebook. And we also have a YouTube channel. Our first ever set is dropping tonight at 6 p.m. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, it's a bit of fun. Each month we drop unique sets, mixed that you can listen to at the gym, on the way to work, all that stuff. And also each week we're going to release a new remix of a song as well. Plus, we're going to have heaps of content released on our Instagram and social media as well. So don't miss that. We're going to also have unique songs made as well. Actual songs made by DJ Grumpy that we'll be releasing too. Matter of fact, there might already be one on our Spotify if you give DJ Grumpy a follow on our Spotify. Okay, Eels v. the Dolphins. Matt Doorey has been added to the bench. Tuaviti. Tuaviti. Oh, there's a T there. Yep. Tuaviti. In the only change from the Eels' loss to the Sharks, Tuaviti is head knock.
I believe so.
Yeah, because he's a gun. I wouldn't be taking him out of side. There's no way. Dolphins team news. Corfusi and Donahue return from injury. Nichols reverts to the bench. Keeley drops out of the 17. Man, for the Dolphins, it's just like, my God, can you just play 80 minutes? Because if you play 80 minutes, mate, you'd nearly be sitting on top of the table. They have these little periods where they are unbelievable, and then they just drop off. In regards to the Eels, look, it's just about building off last week. You know, I know a lot of Eels fans were disappointed with last week. A couple of tough calls, but got to remember, Sharkies are at the very least a definite top 6 side. At best, they're a top 4 premiership threat. And so I just think that, you know, although Mitchell Moses is a bloody good player, at the same time, you know, baby steps. I think that this is a really good game for them to kind of bounce back and look, they can actually still fight to make the 8. They're actually still within striking distance of the 8. Now, granted, it'll take a fair bit of a mission, and you've got to go, oh, man, could you imagine if they started the year with Mitchell Moses there? But, look, at the moment, they're on 6 points. However, top 8 is only 10 points. Granted, they have had their bye, so that does hurt a little bit. But the way the competition is run this year is teams that are like last well within striking distance because everyone's beating everyone. There's no real clear-cut 8 because right now, from all the way from last to first, it's 10 points. Like, that's a bizarre. I'd love to see what other years. Tuaviti, he's out for a few months. He's syndesmosis injury. Okay, apologies for that. Mate, he is, talk about young guns, 20 years old. And no one's even talking about him, a big front rower. What have we been ranting and raving about in the competition for the last, is Terrell Mays, your Payne Hasses, your Adam Blakes, and then a big front rower that's 20 years old, comes on and plays like he does. He is absolutely one to watch for the Eels, guys. In regards to this game, look, I'm going to go, this is a tough one. I'll go head-to-head. Who you going, mate? Who you going?
Market's really even. I'm surprised the Eels are favourites in this one. I know they got that win over the West Tigers, but that was a tight one. And, you know, they were short of the mark last week against the Sharks. I don't think it was that far off. But the Dolphins have had 2, shall we say, strong losses. They've shown they can land punches on the best teams in the competition, and more than that, put themselves in positions to win games. I really like them in this one. I know they're away from home, but their point-scoring ability is really scary for a lot of teams at the moment. The Eels have had a little bit of a problem on that side of the ball over the course of the season.
Yeah, look, how crazy. Like, a couple of weeks ago, the Dolphins, you know, they beat the Melbourne Storm, and you're going, oh, man, they could be a top 4 side. They're down to 14th. Now, granted, they've got a bye in hand, but 14th, like, far out. I'm going to go Dolphins. Dolphins are a bounce back. Dolphins are a bounce back. All right, Knights v Titans. Adam O'Brien sticks with the same 17, the snap 5-game losing streak against the Rabbitohs. And right now, the Knights are above the Dolphins. Like, that's crazy. And I know they've played the one this game. But anyway, in the Titans, Campbell returns at halfback with Tommy Weaver under concussion protocols. But he would have been brought in anyway. Jojo Fifita returns on the wing. Dave Fifita reportedly seeking medical advice on ankle injury, so he probably won't be in the side. Man, this is like the battle of both teams, like, desperate to just get some form. You know, I know the Knights had a big win. The big concern heading into this game for the Knights is, like, you don't want to take too much confidence from last week because it was against a team that was decimated by injury. And, you know, and like, granted, I know they'll keep their. You're not going to be walking around going, oh, we towed the Storm up or the Bulldogs. But they just need to make sure that they don't have a bit of false confidence. Go, okay, well, we smacked them. The Rabbitohs, we're good to go. Because if they do, the Titans can ambush them. We know the Titans have it in them. And also, especially with, you know, Jaden Campbell, he's gone from that good young fullback to arguably their main player, outside of Tino, obviously. But this one, I think I'll go the Knights. Head-to-head, I think I'll go the Knights to get the job done.
The biggest thing for them last week was they finally put points on the board, Kempy.
Yeah.
And their attack did look a lot better. So you're hoping they can carry that through. You're hoping something's clicked and
Well,
giving those fans something to cheer up there
Oh,
at
man.
McDonald Jones Stadium because they are so good when it's rocking.
Well, I think the big reason is they were winning the ruck, and then they had a bit of front foot footy. Bradman best, I've been saying it for a few weeks now, but just give him early ball. I think the positive as well with last week is it's not like Kalen Ponga blew them out of the water. It was actually other players that did. Now KP was still good, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like MVP, player of the month or player of the week. But I think the key is and look, granted they've been missing these players, so I know Knights fans will be going, well, obviously. But I think the key was, if you actually go and look at the front row stats, Leo Thompson had arguably the best game of the season for him. And Jacob Saifiti he ran for 210 metres. Jacob Saifiti was easily his biggest game of the season. And so that's the thing with the Knights. And I said this at the start of the year. I got a bit of pushback from Knights fans, understandably so. And I'm not, maybe I was wrong. But the concern with the Knights is they've got so little depth in that front row. As soon as they're an injury, they go from a long, long drop. And so if they have Jacob Saifiti and Thompson starting, they can do that to sides. And so that's where their points lie, because you've got guys like Fletcher Sharp hanging around the ruck. You've got Bradman Best. You get him a quick play of the ball, or you just spin it to him early. And that's what I liked about the Knights' performance last week, is it wasn't just like typical boring out the back. It was quick play of the ball, front foot footy, support up the middle or down the sides, and obviously try time. Okay, we are going to head to break. Before we go to a break, got a quick text here. Kempy, what do we do when Dylan Brown comes? For example, we have 2 6s and 1 7. So do we drop Sharp? I think that you will probably have Dylan Brown at 7. You'll have Sharp at 6. You'll have KP at 1. But in good ball, at the very least in good ball, KP will actually play 7. He'll mix and match. Like sometimes he'll play out fullback. But if you go back and watch when the Knights were playing well at the start of this year, KP was first receiver a lot of the time. The problem is KP is currently struggling with a bit of an injury. And also, there has been whispers around KP and him being at the club long term. But I don't want to get down to that. But that's how I think they'll play. All right, we're going to head to a break. See you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, brought to you by Bloke Jerseys. Head to bloke.shop, grab your Bloke jersey today. I think we've got about 20% left. So once they're gone, they are all gone. Okay, Rabbitohs team news. Charlie Mint returns to fullback to captain the side after serving suspension. Humphreys returns from a hamstring injury in the halves. Fletcher Myers comes onto the starting side on the wing, with Tass moving to the centres. Aitken going to second row. Jai Arrow moves to prop alongside Keon Kalamatangi, with Sean Kepi shifting to the bench. Jai Gray, where has he been named?
On the bench.
On the bench, okay.
14.
Interesting. I think, okay, well, I guess we'll see. I think that, is if Latrell doesn't really engage in this game and really put his stamp on it, I think they may feel a bit of pressure to put him back to fullback and put Trelly to the centres, just until he gets his kind of groove back. Latrell, you have to remember, he's been out for quite a while. He's his fifth game back? Fourth game?
Yeah.
Fourth or fifth game back.
You're about right.
So, easing him back into the season. But I do think that, the more I look at the Rabbitohs and I go, okay, if you could find a way to have Gray at the back and Trell at centre, but not a normal centre, like a roaming centre, because I just think that Gray is so good that if you could find a way to get Latrell in good ball with the ball playing, and then Gray coming out of his own end with all of those metres that he runs, it's the best of both worlds. Trelly doesn't have to do all the crap stuff, all the running and everything. He can just chill, do his attack in defence. Do his defence in the centres. And then in good ball, as soon as they cross that line, the magic in Latrell's hands is second to none. Really, the only other player with better hands, maybe Scotty Drinkwater at fullback. Outside of that, I'd argue Trell's ball playing is as good as any fullback in the competition, as including Drinky. If it's not as good, it is just below. So if you can find that balance, I think that's going to be their perfect balance, because I just think Jai Gray's too good to have out of the side at the moment. Now, if Trelly's fully fit and he's just firing at fullback, then obviously you put him at fullback. But we'll see. Okay, just got a quick text here. Good afternoon. Mr. Kemp, he seemed to know what you're talking about, mate. I was just wondering why. Why are the Roosters chasing DCE? We have 2 very good halfbacks here at the moment, and got Sammy Walker coming back. I just think DCE's on that next level, and I think they're looking for a premiership very soon. Okay, Broncos team news. Benny Hunt will again partner Adam Reynolds and Halves. Mam returning from suspension in Queensland Cup. Fletcher Baker comes onto the bench. Expense of Jaden Hunt. Look, really important game for the Broncos. Really important game. With Ezra Mam, look, I think that the Broncos should actually, he's going to get booed no matter what coming back. And look, that's people's right. That's people's right to have that, that's just part of life. It's not great, but it's just part of life. It's people's right to have that opinion. I personally think that the Broncos should just let him play in reserve grade for a good period, because I just think it's best for everyone, to be honest. We spoke earlier about how his punishment from the NRL probably wasn't that. A lot of people disagree with it, and I think him just coming straight back into first grade. I feel like the Broncos they don't necessarily need to make a stand because they're going by what's been handed down. But at the same time, they can show him, look, mate, go back to reserve grade, find your feet. At the same time, you don't just get to walk back into the side. Not that I don't think Mam would expect it. But if he was just to come straight back in, I don't like that. I don't like that. It's a very... This is not like off season. You got a bit of a punch on, or you got caught, running naked down the street. Like, this is a very, very serious situation. And I don't think that him just coming straight back in is fair. And I know the argument against that is he's served his time, therefore he should just be fair game. But I think that it's not that simple, because most people would agree that the punishment probably doesn't fit what happened. And I will say this, Ezra didn't punish himself. You can have your frustrations with Ezra for what he did, but I don't think having frustrations at him for what the punishment is fair, because he didn't punish himself. But you can be frustrated at the actual situation that happened. That's my thoughts on that. We already said earlier that I would have thought around the 6 to 12 months would have been better. Most likely more just a season. Go out, get your life together, repent with the person in question as much as you possibly can. In regards to this game, I think I really, really think the Broncos need this win. So I'm going to go the Broncos for a big bounce back.
I'm going south with those ins, Kempy. I think if everything goes right, the Broncos have got to sort something out. There's too much variance week to week. I'm not sure exactly what's causing that. You'll have a better idea than me. But I think South, with these players back at home on a Friday night at a core, I like them.
Okay. All righty. Okay. We are going to head to a break. And, we've got a couple more. All right. Okay. All righty. Next game. Raiders, no team changes. Doggies, match of the round. This will be live on SEN as well. Also, guys, I will be calling the game Friday night. Broncos v Rabbitohs. So, first ever calling of a game. I'm colour call, I'm the colour though, aren't I? I'm not actually
exactly right. You're sitting with Mark Brobrook and Andrew McCullough.
Well, there you go. So,
good team.
Listen in on SEN because I'll be doing it for the Brisbane Broncos. First time ever. Raiders v Bulldogs. Burton returns to suspension of 5'8". Bailey Hayward is named on the bench. Jacob Preston was named but has been found guilty of the crusher tackle, meaning there'll be a reshuffle in the forwards. Oh, this is a good one. I'm going to go Doggies. I'm going to go Doggies.
I'm going Doggies as well. I'm interested in how the Bulldogs pull up for this game, given there's going to be a little bit of a reshuffle in the forwards. And we've seen they've had some issues there over the last couple of weeks. But Billy Kickout still there. Jamin Salmon against Ricky Stewart is a storyline in this as well. Kempy, how are you assessing the Raiders at the moment? Because they really have put together a fantastic month of football. And getting that win over the Storm last week, I think, is a sort of a vindication that they are out-and-out top 4 contenders, if not higher this season.
Yeah, I just think that the game last week might have taken a little bit out of him. Kind of short turnaround, not really. It is a Saturday game. I just think the Bulldogs, they were clinical last week, but there were periods where they did switch off a little bit. They always looked in control. But I just think that the Burton coming back into the side is a big one for the Bulldogs. He's such a key player. Hayleywood's great, but I just think Burton, you have to remember, in their spine, he's their main man. It's almost like a Cleary coming back in. I know he's not the same kind of player, but you know what I'm saying. And I just think that the Bulldogs, they want to almost build back to where they were before that big Broncos loss. It was a good, solid win against the Titans, and it was controlled. But I reckon, they're going to look at that Broncos game and go, we need to get a big scalp back. We need to go to the Raiders away from home because I think that, they wouldn't think this internally, but if you could have one knock on the Bulldogs for this year, you could make the argument that they lost against the Broncos at Suncorp, and that was their biggest test of the season. Now, granted, the Broncos are so up and down, you just don't know what you're going to get. And so I think this is really key for them to go down to Canberra, get a big scalp and say, okay, there is no question about who we can and can't beat on the road.
It's not just a draw. That's
Exactly.
been a knock on them, right?
Yeah, and I don't agree with that, but I do also think it's a reasonable argument to make. I personally don't subscribe to it, but I don't think it's crazy to say it. I don't think it's crazy to say you haven't faced, this, that, and the next thing. So that's why this is really important for the Bulldogs, because it just puts it to bed immediately. You can't really, if they go down to the Canberra, nation's capital, and put the Raiders away, outside of them beating, the Storm, it's really, is what it is. Okay, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we are going to speak to the big fella, Kiraz. See you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run, and oh man, I'm pumped up. I'm pumped up because I got the big dog, and we're talking the biggest of the big dogs, Belmore. Bulldogs, big dog, Jacob Kiraz on the line. How you going, brother?
How are you, man? Thanks for having me.
Oh, mate, it's very, very good to have you. First of all, how you feeling after the weekend, mate? Huge game. 3 meat pies. You're laughing.
Yeah, put up pretty good, which is good. Obviously, legs a bit sore, but yeah, the tries were just a bonus, and just on to this week now.
And in regards to the doggies at the moment, obviously you had that little blip on the radar, but outside of that, it's been an incredible start to the season. What's the feeling like around the joint?
Yeah, the feeling's good, man. It's obviously, when you're winning, it's fun, which is good, and the good thing is, everyone just kept a good head, and the coaches made sure that we just keep a steady head.
Unfortunately, just lost Kiraz, but he'll be back soon, I'm sure. Man, what a start to the season, the Bulldogs. I don't think, surely even they were sitting there going, mate, 7-1 or 6-0. There's no, I don't even think they would have expected that. And just the way they're playing, and even with the injuries they've had, maybe you go 6-0 if you've got no injuries. Maybe you go 6-0 if everything's working for you, but they've had, big wins against key players. Oh, we got him back. The big fella is back.
Yeah, I think my phone's stuff.
That's all good, mate. He's under the $1 billion training facility that the Bulldogs secretly have out in Belmore. You don't know what's going on out there at the moment. Jeez, they're playing that well. Mate, this year for you, did you, obviously everyone in the preseason, they train hard. They go, yep, this year's our year. We're all looking good. But you guys actually did it. You went 6-0. Did you expect to have such a good start to the season, mate?
Within the playing group, we obviously had that belief, and we had a very good preseason. All the boys trained hard, and we kind of, if you don't have that belief, then it's something that happens. The good thing about this year, probably compared to the year before, is that we finished the year pretty good in 24, and then we said, we had the belief that we actually can do it, and I think that was probably the strongest thing, having that belief and training hard. 3 years now under Ciro, some boys are 2 years now under Ciro, so it's just all starting to come along.
Mate, it's been an incredible rise to the 6-0. It really has. We still got you there, mate? We still got you? Okay, sorry, you're just cutting in and out. Mate, what about Critter inside you on the weekend? What's it like playing outside a bloke like Critter? Yeah,
Critter, obviously, the best centre in the game. Usually speaks for itself, but I'm very lucky to play outside of a player like Critter, not only because of what he does on the field, it's just off the field and what he's honestly done for my game. He's changed my game dramatically. He's a leader, and I'm very lucky to have him beside me. He gets the boys around all the time, and once again, all I'm going to do is catch the ball and score and just let him do all the work. So it's that.
And for yourself, in regards to how's your body feeling? I know you had an injury to the start of the year and it was a bit touch and go there. How's it all going?
Yeah, it's going good. Obviously, I was shattered to miss the season, but if I look back at it, it's probably a blessing in disguise. I felt like the performance team We all found out a good plan for me and, how to manage my body the best we can. And I feel like I came back at, a good time where, I was ready to go. And I remember I think I was still back another 2 years after when I actually played. But, the way I trained and stuff, my body's ready to go. So, shout out to my performance team that got me ready.
Hey, listen, mate. I think Gus Gould's listening on this phone conversation because it is. I can barely hear you. Maybe Gus Gould's on the line, mate. We'll have to let you go because it's just a bit choppy. But thanks for calling in, brother. We really appreciate it, and good luck this week, mate.
Sorry, mate. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
No, all good, brother. All good. No stress whatsoever. We appreciate you making time for us. There he is, the big fella Kiraz, and what a rise to his success. Went up to Newcastle. Really interesting story. You can actually go and listen to the podcast I had with Kiraz about a year ago or however long it was. And he told a story of how he's quite a religious man, and in his family, usually they don't leave home, I think, until they're married. Don't get me wrong, but they don't leave home for a long period of time. He chased his dream. He went up to Newcastle. I think he was given a 2-year deal. Anyway, so he's there for the first year. I think he had some injuries, but then he found his form. He had another year to go. And he just said, no, I'm going back into Sydney. I believe in myself. I'm going to back myself. I'm going to head back down to Sydney, be closer to home, and I'm going to back myself to play some good footy down there. So he left a whole year, guaranteed contract for a training trial, I'm pretty sure. And then the rest is history. He comes and he explodes onto the scene in a team that's struggling. And then as the Bulldogs continue to grow, when there's a huge clean out, we're talking to Seraldo, who goes, he walks into the building and he goes, okay, about 29 of you guys are out of here. Or like a lot of people, he taps on the shoulder and says, you aren't going to fit my system. You aren't going to fit my system. Guess who he doesn't tap on the shoulder? Guess who he continues to keep? That's right, Kiraz. And that just shows you, how the character on and off the field that Kiraz brings. The fact that Seraldo, in a clean-out, usually you just go, you know what, everyone's gone because they are the old system. He shone so much during that tough year where everyone was starting to go, wow, I don't know if this Seraldo situation is going to work. He shone so strongly that he said, mate, you're staying, and not only you're staying, I'm going to extend you. That's the kind of player Kiraz is, and there's no doubt in my mind we'll see him in an Australian jersey. We'll see him in a Blues jersey. We've already seen him in a Lebanon jersey, I'm pretty sure, the great man. And so I cannot wait to see it. We're going to head to a break. After the break, we're going to wrap the show up. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Don't forget, I will be live doing the call for Rabbitohs v the Broncos, first ever. So make sure to tune into SEN for the Rabbitohs v the Broncos. And don't forget as well, give us a follow at Grumpy Drinks. Grab some Grumpy Coffee from grumpycoffee.com.au. Also, before it ends, Code Sports. That's right, we have a seriously short time offer. Go to codesports.com.au. So codesports.com.au/bloke. Then use code MAGIC and you claim your first free month of Code Sports. Limited time. You can cancel at any time. That code MAGIC, so code sports with an S.com.au. That offer is ending on Thursday. They never do this kind of offer. They've offered the bloke community. I thought I'd offer the SEN community as well. Use code MAGIC for your first month free of Code Sports. Listen to us live on SEN, guys. Broncos v the Rabbitohs or Rabbitohs v the Broncos. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Stay tuned for the run home.